Well, thank you very much for your attention. I just want to point out first, we have had some wonderful music. I think you've noticed that's been a twist. Now, Brooke Rowland, who plays the harp, I must point out, she has won international competitions in harp. She's internationally recognized, and we're so proud to have her as part of the Leadership Academy. So thank you so much for adding that, and I think you are permanently retained for that job. It's a tough economy, but you can always play for us. You know, before today's meeting, I always am talking to Ralph. He and I touch base a couple of times a week, and when I told him about this very special Leadership Academy luncheon, he said, as he always does, he said, well, who's going to be there? And I was going through some of the names, because there are some new faces and there's some returning faces. And Ralph, in his own thoughtful way, was saying, that's quite a group of leaders who are going to be in the room with you today. And I'd like to acknowledge some of the people who joined us specially today. We have some of the faces that have become very familiar to us. We'd love to have you here. Mary Seeger, John Wardrop, and Mary Beth Wardrop. And we have President Haas. So we appreciate your being here, but we also have some new faces. I'd like to point out we have Paul Nelson here. We have Jim Mitchell. We have Scott Robertson at that table. Well, raise your hand for new faces. Jim and Paul and did I get everybody? And Scott, did I get everybody, the new faces here? Well, thank you very much for being here. As Ralph said, you've got quite a room full of leaders. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention two of my colleagues who also came today, Briette and Todd. It's so good to have you. We hope you'll join us again as well. Thank you for being here. Well, now to our special guest, Hank Meijer. So pleased that he's able to join us. A book that impressed me a lot in my whole conception of leadership was written by Gary Wills. Gary Wills wrote a book called Certain Trumpets, in which he said, we're often called on to be leaders in a lot of different areas. We don't just become a leader in one area. Once you've been bitten by the bug, or once you see that you have the capacity to lead, you find yourself being called on by your community to lead in a number of capacities. A very important point. And Hank is one of those guys that I wanted to have come in and address the Leadership Academy precisely because he exhibits this principle of leading in a number of areas. Let me just go through. Hank always wants the introductions to be very short, but let me go through just a couple of things that he's done. Most of you know him as the business leader that is associated with the big red signs around town, the CEO and co-chair of Meijer. He's recognized for his overhaul of store-level management and his focus on programs that benefit the community. You know, when you think of Meijer, you think buy local, or you think of the health and wellness initiatives at Meijer, a lot of that comes from Hank. Then, as an intellectual leader, I've had a great deal of respect for Hank, going back a number of years. Hank has been working on a wonderful biography of Arthur Vandenberg. And here's a guy, his full-time job, of course, CEO at Meijer. How he finds the time to do this, I don't know. But he also is writing the definitive biography on America's Senator Arthur Vandenberg. It's a fascinating work. I've had the privilege of reading some of the manuscript, and it is a book that combines historical research and skill with a real literary sense too. Hank was an English major at the University of Michigan. I don't think he's ever lost that literary touch. We look very forward to this work. And also, Hank has established himself, as most of you know, as a philanthropic and community leader here in West Michigan. You look at all the things that he's done, whether it's vice chairing the Gerald R. Foundation Board of Trustees, where he's a vice president of the Grand Rapids Area Council for the Humanities, truly a cultural leader in that capacity, in addition to producing culture. He's a board member for Fifth Third Bank, Kettering Foundation, Food Marketing Institute. And you cannot mention Meijer, that name. You cannot walk through Grand Valley and not notice the presence of Hank's family all through Grand Valley State University, the Meijer campus in Holland, the Meijer Public Broadcasting Center, the Meijer Honors College, the Meijer Writing Center. Hank also sponsors Poetry Night here at Grand Valley. So for all these reasons, I wanted a leader to address us who had experience in leadership across the board. Please welcome Hank Meijer.